So, Cassandra, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's amazing that you're in the middle of chemotherapy and you still show up for something like this. And I think that that's a real reflection of where you are in your life right now. So thank you.
No problems.
So I wanted to start by talking about how we first met. So we first met because you're in my mastermind group for Farm Owners Academy. So take me back a little bit before that. How did you end up choosing to be part of the Platinum Mastermind in the Farm Owners Academy?
So my husband and I have been farming together for approximately 15 plus years, and throughout our journey of farming, we've been always trying to find that little bit of extra help or mentoring or guidance, and had engaged over the years different advisors in the technical space of our farming journey, but always felt there was something more. I had come from a non-farming background, so I understood the world of goals and aspirations, and we were always searching for something to bring our technical knowledge and that other part of goal setting and journey together. And through a series of events, we ended up share farming in Forbes in Central West New South Wales, and we stumbled across on the internet the Take Control program offered by Farm Owners Academy, and we signed up for that and started that process. And at the time, we were in a very difficult business partnership, and we got to one of the early stages of that course, and it was talking about values. And it was a real light bulb moment for us to realise that our values as business operators and the person we were in business partnership with were not aligned whatsoever. And that we actually just sort of, that was a real shift for us. And we recognised the information was great, but we weren't in a place to take it any further. So we just put everything on pause and took steps to dissolve that business. And probably 12 months later, we then got the opportunity to utilise the tickets to go to the live event in Adelaide. And at that time, we'd moved to a new farm, new business in Victoria. And when we went to the 2-day event, we were just like, wow, this is what we've been searching for. And just that knowledge of our mindset and where we were after having almost a failed business, I suppose, things like that. We just were like, we really need this. And at the time, financially, it was going to be a struggle because we were on the brink of almost financial disaster, I suppose. But we took a leap of faith because we knew we needed it. And my husband said at the time, like, he'd never been to university or spent money on higher education. This was his time to do that. So we just were like, we've got to do this. It was so compelling. So that's how we ended up there.
And that gives me goosebumps, because now you must just think, thank goodness we took that leap of faith because of what's happened since then and now.
Oh, exactly. And it, like, as soon as we joined, it was just like, an overwhelming, we belong to something. There's people like us that want something more. And we always felt we're a little bit different, that we wanted to be farmers, but we wanted it to do it differently. And to have that put on I guess, here it is, you can do it. And exactly. And how life has changed for us in 2 years so much. Thank goodness we took that leap of faith.
Yeah, amazing. And then we met. Lucky for me, I just love working with you guys, and you got to know me. And then just explain how you ended up at my Soul Pleaser retreat.
I must admit, I wasn't sure when we were allocated business coaches, because at the time I was very business focused, driven, and I was like, I'm not sure how Tracy's going to fit with me, because I think I need this side of it. But then in hindsight, I know it was perfect, because I knew I so needed your gifts to help me. So working with you for the year, uncovered so many questions for me with myself that I didn't even know I had. So And my sister, who isn't actually in farm owners, and I got common interests. And for her 40th, she mentioned, I'd love to go to a retreat. And I was like, oh, Tracy offers these retreats. I'm not sure what's going to be on offer, but I've enjoyed working with her. Let's go for it. So, yeah, one thing led to another, and we're able to get a spot for Zoe and I on your retreat. And, yeah, went in totally not knowing what to expect, but knew I'd enjoy it, and so would Zoe. And, yeah, it really opened my eyes to the next level of working more specifically with you on myself as a person, not as a farm business owner. So just a great compliment to farm owners and, yeah, the personal work.
Yeah.
And yeah, after the retreat, I was like, I'm still not sure what I need from this, but it feels great, so I'm going for it.
Yeah, you've really learned to trust yourself, even when you can't intellectually fathom why. You can't necessarily justify it. And that, as you know, is what we learn in Soul Pleaser, is not having to justify it with our intellectual mind, but really trust that feeling, which is the soul calling us to the next step of our growth. And what was the big aha for you, do you think, at the retreat? What did you learn about yourself at the retreat?
I think I had a lot of little ahas, but probably just a sense of forgiveness for myself, because I had put my work and things at the forefront of my life and had been in survival mode for so long, trying to grow our business, and had come across some unfortunate circumstances which we got through. And it was probably just saying to yourself, you've done that now, you don't have to do that anymore. And look, embracing life with a different viewpoint of gratitude, of how far you've come. You don't have to fight anymore. You can allow things to come to you. And just even being on the retreat with some people that you had no idea how you would connect with, but such significant connections in just a short amount of time, it created a sense of I could leave that old me behind. And and just the power of women together and energy it was amazing.
Yeah. And you're coming to another one in 2 weeks, which is very exciting timing.
Yes.
And interestingly, as we know now, we connect with each other because we have something in common, even well before we know it. So we feel called towards each other, or we just end up what we feel like by chance together. And what I saw in you in that retreat is the old me, which is a workaholic, a person addicted to work because of the sense of achievement. And what I discovered for myself is my self-worth was dependent on success and dependent on me getting the success. I didn't want anyone to give it to me, and I didn't want it to be easy, because I wanted to achieve it through my effort and my hard work. And I really saw that in you. And so over time, you've become more and more aware of that. And as you've joined the Soul Pleaser program and been, using all of those tools, how have you changed in terms of that addiction to work? Before you got the cancer diagnosis, where were you at in terms of starting to let some of that go and starting to shift that?
I had, been making subtle shifts, as in reducing my physical hours at work. And that is, I guess, a challenge, because I do enjoy my work, but it was very ingrained autopilot, the physical go to work. And I had made some shifts, but they weren't significant enough, I don't think. And I hadn't stepped away enough to allow the other people in my team to step up. I was still controlling, and there's nothing. I know there's nothing wrong with that, because it's just a progression. You've got to take baby steps, and I feel like the cancer diagnosis was actually you now this is serious, you have to step away, but you have put all these things in place, so great, go for it. Now is your opportunity. However, even post-surgery and things, I did, like, my body was wanting to work. It's that deep in you that you need to be there. And it's part of my personality too, to know that I've done a great job and I've set these things in place. So there's positives to it, but it was a point where it was detrimental to my health and well-being. I know that, and just your general productivity. You can't sustain 70, 80-hour weeks for 15 years. So I'm actually at the point now where I don't miss the work, whereas I used to. So I'm channeling my work into different areas, but yeah, it's hard to describe. But yeah, when I got home from hospital, just going, my body wants to work. It's not used to this. So even though I've made shifts, it's not something that you can just change overnight.
Yeah, and that's really well explained, because when we have belief systems that we've been conditioned with, and I wanted you to mention those 80-hour weeks, because 15 years of 80-hour weeks, prior to this, what time did you get up and how long did you work for?
Yeah, every morning, 5 a.m. starts minimum, and then most days finishing 6, and that's, it wasn't every day, but lots of days. And then
running the business on top of that was the physical work, and then there was other work as well.
Exactly. My step counter on my Apple Watch could be 20,000 steps a day. Physical leg work. So
that feeling, that physical feeling like the body wants to go back to work, we actually make grooves in our nervous system with our belief systems and our habits and our behaviors. So you've got all these pathways that you've physically created in your brain as a result of your behaviors. And so there is a physical urge to continue to behave the way that we've always behaved. And so that's why it's just so inspiring to see everything falling into place in your favor, including the diagnosis. So if you can just share how you found out in the first place, the conversation that happened on a Q&A, which resulted in you doing something about it.
So I think it was in probably October, we had one of our Soul Pleaser Q&As, and Tracy mentioned that she had to get a lump in her breast, a change in her breast checked. And Tracy was very confident. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I'll just go get this checked, and I have nothing to worry about. And it was all good. And I had a lump in my breast that I had got checked 4 or 5 years ago, and was told there was nothing wrong with it. It's just a blocked duct, don't worry. However, around that similar time, it had started to change. And when I heard Tracy say that, it had been bubbling in my mind, I need to go and get this checked. And I heard Tracy say, I've got mine checked, it's going to be fine. And I was like, yep, I'm going to get mine checked too, it's going to be fine. And I went and got it, went to the doctor, who was still quite dismissive. Don't know, here, take some antibiotics or something. And I was like, no, that doesn't feel right. I still need some more answers. And during COVID, things are a little bit delayed. So from October, it ended up being January before I had a physical ultrasound on it, and it wasn't fine. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Very fortunate for me that it's a non-aggressive type. I'm extremely fortunate that it stayed quite contained, and I've had some surgery to remove the lump and lymph nodes, and my prognosis is as good as it can be expected, and the fact that I'm young and healthy. But I guess I knew deep down I needed to get it checked, and I think Tracy gave me the confidence that it'll be fine. And although it wasn't the answer that I wanted, I think I knew what it was. I wasn't doubting what it was. I knew because it had changed that it was cancer. So, but I also know I couldn't have dealt with it earlier. I could deal with it now because of so many things that we've put in place, and deal with it with confidence. And I think back to the Q&A that we had, it was, I think, 2 days before I even went and had an ultrasound. And I said, for this year, my word is going to be trust. And I go, you look back and there's just this stack of scenarios that all led me to this point that I could go ahead and deal with this breast cancer diagnosis and move forward with it. So.
Yeah, and it's been so inspiring to watch you go through this process, because it has been so different to how it would have been if it had occurred 2 years ago and you hadn't done the work that you've done on yourself, and not just you, but your husband as well. So first of all, from a practical point of view, everything that you've learned through both Farm Owners Academy and Soul Pleaser got you set up with a team so that you could even be absent. You know, prior to that, the business needed you, so you wouldn't have even had time to be sick. And
Definitely.
then secondly, you and your attitude. And, you know, as soon as you got the diagnosis, you and Andrew called me and we talked through, you know, a spiritual way of looking at this so that you could have absolute faith in the whole process and really understand that you're creating the next outcome. And your relationship, the change in your relationship with Andrew has really made this a much better experience than if it had been the way that it used to be. Not that there was a real problem with it, but he needed a lot of reassurance from you, and he would have been hovering trying to fix this, and all of that would have been another frustration for you. So
yes.
Can you sort of share your take on that and how you feel like all of those things just made this perfect timing to go through something like this?
Oh, exactly. Like doing Soul Pleaser together, the two programs simultaneously, like has brought up a few challenges along the way, but I am just, again, so grateful because Andrew really did rely on me as the business operator, manager, and we have worked so intensively together for so long that we are a unit. So watching him grow with himself and in confidence and leadership, and his clarity of mind to plan his workload and all those things, which is Farm Owners and Soul Pleaser together, meant that I could step out quite quickly and he could deal with that, as well as his faith and trust in, I guess, what's happening with me, that he was confident in my outcomes, that he could keep focused. And yes, we've had a few wavering moments, but for Andrew, for example, he couldn't come to the hospital with me when I had surgery 2 years ago. That would have been really traumatic for him, and it would have been really traumatic for me being on the inside and having him being quite needy on the outside and feeling really disconnected from me. But the way that he could just, you know, step into his own power and use the tools, the meditation, the breathing, you know, he got through it. And it's been, it's really been mind-blowing, the changes within our relationship to navigate this next stage, because you never plan for this, but the fact that we can, and he can now, he knows I love him, but I'm just not that as available, and now he knows that that's okay and he's not taking it personally, whereas before he always would.
Yeah, and he's really aware of that, you know, with his upbringing and all of his past, why that was the case. And so to be able to openly, you know, the fact that you're in Unlimited Joy doing the Soul Pleaser program with all the women, and he's in Soul Pleaser for Men doing it with all the men, you're able to talk separately about what's going on, but then you're able to come together and discuss it. And obviously the three of us can talk about it as well. And so it's incredible to see that shift. And also, when you first let me know about the diagnosis, I was able to share with you that my mum intuitively knew when she was diagnosed There was a lot of people that she didn't tell. And what she knew was that everybody was going to talk about it all the time. And because we understand what you focus on grows and vibration is really important, you know, you've been able to handle this so well with all of your other relationships outside of the two of you in terms of how the two of you have approached this in letting people know what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. And we now know we don't want drama and chaos and people feeling sorry for us in our life. And we can reflect back and we know we have attracted that over our time, that you know, if we're going through something difficult, we talked about it more and more and more and just fed the situation. Whereas this time we were very clear that how we want to deal with this, and not keeping it a secret, but making sure we had all the facts before we went on to talk to people. And Andrew was really great in explaining to everyone how we want to deal with this. And yeah, our circle of people around us have responded really well to it. And, you know, even how we're going about dealing with the information provided by the cancer specialists, you know, we are just taking what we need. We're not researching every possible cancer scenario, etc., etc. And I think, yeah, our clarity of mind from all our other training, and then just having that clear, this is about us and how we want to deal with it. We're not worried what other people think. This is how we want to approach it. And it's just meant that the whole process has been very calm. And yeah, I don't want to be the centre of attention and I'm the victim because I've got cancer. I just would like to move on with it. So yeah,
it's incredible. It's going to be so inspiring for the people who watch this to hear that take on it, because at the moment it's not the norm. Obviously there are other people being taught these things as well, but I think that this can be the future. I think if we can focus on wellness rather than being diagnosis and sickness focused and then going into worry and spiraling, we can actually hold a vision of perfect health. And interestingly, in preparation for a retreat, I get everybody to detox from a few things for 2 weeks before the retreat. And this was really the start of a health shift for you, which has really set you up for this. You know, you've got extra support now from a nutritionist as well, but it really got you into a better place than you were prior to the retreat, ready for this chemotherapy. Can you explain what happened to you when you started the sort of preparation for the retreat and what followed from that?
So as a chronic workaholic, sleep-deprived person, I used to drink a lot of coffee. And I mean a lot. It's probably at least 6 cups a day. And I sort of probably 2 to 3 years ago had started to make some shifts from the coffee alcohol cycles. Alcohol was my stress relief. Coffee got me up and going in the morning, and I was in the loop, the cortisol, and I know my body was stressed, and my diet wasn't too bad, but yeah, I knew I relied on those things to make me feel better and get me up and going. So I had reduced my alcohol intake considerably, but still enjoyed it socially. But the coffee was still a big part of my day. And I remember reading the pre-retreat instructions and going, holy smokes, what am I going to do? Because I had got off caffeine before and it's quite challenging. So I think it took me 4 weeks before the first retreat last year to reduce my caffeine, and it was very difficult. It was a physical addiction. I had a new understanding of what it is like for a drug addict. Like I totally got it. And I had like body pains, thumping headaches, etc., and it took the month before the retreat, and then since then, 12 months later, I'm proud to say I'm 99% caffeine free. I've had occasionally a cup of coffee if I'm driving and I needed a bit of a boost. And the only thing with the chemo, I was getting thumping headaches, and I did have some coffee, and it was a game changer. It really helped. So I'm quite open to say, yeah, I've had some coffee, but I'm not relying on it. And over the last 12 months of being caffeine free, basically, like my attention span, my sleeping, so many things have improved. And, you know, when I was on coffee, if I had to go to a conference or a meeting for a couple of hours, I could hardly concentrate. And I felt like I had ADHD all the time in those sort of situations. So, so that was probably my first big shift from the retreat. And I was just so proud of myself being able to maintain that. So
it's amazing. And having a coffee here and there is fine. Like, that's fantastic, because you're not reliant on it, and that was the reliance that you really
exactly. Yeah, and I knew the messages of the cortisol adrenaline loop, and I just knew I couldn't do that to myself anymore. And then say it was probably August, September last year, I chose to do a challenge to go alcohol free, sugar, processed food free. And I felt great after that, and drinking a lot of water after that 75-day challenge, and more exercise. So that was another shift. And again, that really eliminated alcohol for me as part of my life. Occasionally I will have a glass or two, but very occasionally, purely socially and for enjoyment. And it just felt so good to be free of something that you thought you wanted but you knew wasn't good for you. And I think that's probably one of my proudest achievements, is separating my relationship with alcohol to something that I'm in charge of. It doesn't have charge of me. And I it's similar to the workaholic behavior. You associated finished work or friends or so many things, alcohol went hand in hand with, and even to the point you didn't actually enjoy it, but you just, your body was in autopilot for alcohol, or whatever. It can be other things for other people, I suppose. So, so
it's such a good point, because I think one of the big outcomes from doing the Soul Pleaser program is that when we please our soul, we do things because we enjoy them, not because we need them. And when you can get that inner joy from within, which is the premise of a soul pleaser, rather than from outside of yourself and needing circumstances and people to be a certain way to feel good, you can tap into that. And then if you feel like doing something just for the fun of it, just for the joy of it, you do it, but you're not reliant on it and you don't need it. And also, I love how your soul called you to, first of all, a retreat that caused you to give up the caffeine, then to the 75-day challenge. It wasn't you pushing yourself, it was just being inspired. And that's what happens when we tap into our soul rather than pushing ourselves. So what is the vision for the future for you? You now know that the farm can run with very little input from you. And where do you see yourself, a year from here?
It's a funny question. Like, number one, I guess I want to be finished with the cancer treatment. And as I said, I'm so fortunate that the type that I have is very easily treated, and I know that I will be back to pretty well normal in a few months. So, but I still am so committed to post-surgery. There is still changes in my body that I still have to manage, and keeping my health, nutrition and mindset 100% is going to be my number one focus. And I do feel there'll be something else out there for me to do in some way, shape or form. I don't know what it is, and I'm not really worried right now. I'm just enjoying my life and doing the parts of the business that I love, and continuing this journey of growth, because it's it is continual. Just because you've done Soul Pleaser for a year doesn't mean it's finished. There's still, you know, you get on a you think you've come so far and you get on a Q&A and you hear some other things that you're like, oh, yes, I can relate to that. How do I explore that more? Or, yeah, so just deepening those and deepening the connections with people that are like-minded, I think, is something that I really want to pursue. And, yeah, for once in my life, I'm not looking for what's next. Just trusting that what's next will happen. So yeah.
What a shift you and I have made.
I know.
Yeah, because I'm the same. People say, you know, what's next? And I'm like, my life is amazing and what's next will show up.
Yes.
You know, and one step at a time. You don't have to have the whole roadmap. And at the moment for you, it's just more and more health and more well-being. And so it's just so exciting to see you be relaxed about that and be able to feel that.
Yeah, and I've never had that sense of it doesn't matter what's next because I'm okay. I've always felt I've had to create the path, I've had to lay it out, and to have be free of that for a while will be great.
Yeah, it's such a relief. And you can continue to live like that and just know that the premise of life is freedom. The purpose of life is joy, and the outcome of life is expansion and growth. And so all of these things are happening right now with the experience that you're having right now. And you get to choose how you show up for this experience, and your attitude and your emotions and your perception of what's going on is just an incredible example of how you can handle something that most people would really recoil from and become very fearful about.
Oh, exactly. I've loved knowing this whole time that, you know, I'm not going to lie, there's been points where it was a little bit scary. Okay, what does this mean? Because it does happen all very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, knowing, having no fear and just the doors opening, like great surgeons, great medical teams, everything has worked so well that, yeah, you just have this absolute trust and faith. And yeah, I know that it's going to be fine. And just to, it feels like you just got this, this aura around you that, yep, we're fine. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm just so happy for you both. And I just love witnessing your journey and what's to come next. And I can't wait to give you a big hug in 2 weeks' time at the retreat.
Yeah. Thanks, Rosie. And thanks for all the work you do. And like I said, I didn't know why I needed it, but I needed it more than anyone I know, I think. So, yeah, it's great. It's just, there's so much for so many, like, we've all got things that we can work on, and it's just tapping into some of them is great. So yeah, thank you. Can't wait to see you in 2 weeks as well.